Good morning, everyone, and welcome to D.I.V.E, Diversity, including various ethnicities. I am Iris Owens, your host, and on the line with me are my two other co-hosts. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're not going to introduce yourselves? Everybody don't know who you are.
You're right. I've gotten so comfortable now. I'm like, okay, they know me. No, they don't.
It's okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Harrison. I am a realtor here in the Atlanta area at the Cascade office of Berkshire Hathaway. I am so grateful to be here.
Thank you.
And good morning. My name is Stephanie Henry. I'm out of the Swanee office in Atlanta, more in Gwinnett County. What y'all doing today?
I think everyone's just kind of gathering themselves for being off for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And I am in the Peachtree City office with Berkshire Hathaway. So we are so happy that you all are joining us today. And today, and I should say the month, we're going to kick off the month with diving into credit. Credit is a major thing anytime that you are making a major purchase. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to jump in and have some conversations, do a little Q&A about what is credit? What does that mean when someone says, do you have credit? And is it necessary to have it? Why is it so important?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it carry so much weight? So we're just going to throw around to have a little conversation, and hopefully you will garner some good nuggets from this. Okay. So ladies, mm-hmm. What is credit and why?
Well, according to Experian.com, it says
the leader in credit.
Credit is the ability to borrow money or access goods or services with the understanding that you will pay it back later.
Yes. Later, not late.
Later.
Yes.
Meaning not today,
yes,
but by the due date.
Right.
Right.
Which means that someone is trusting you enough that you have the ability to borrow this money, because when you're making a major purchase, mm-hmm. you mainly need some help mm-hmm. to do that. You need credit to do that. Now, even if you're using cash, why use your cash when you could take time and do it on credit, right? Because you need your cash for all the other things that you're going to need to do.
Right.
Now, you could buy a house with cash. It's still great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can obtain credit, why not utilize it?
Yeah. So credit your purchasing power.
Credit is very right, Stephanie, is purchasing power.
Write that down, purchasing power.
I like that. And so someone would say, but I don't want to have credit. People say all the time, I don't, like my son, he always says, I don't need credit. What do I need credit for?
Right.
Because when you are buying a car, you're buying a house, you're making an investment, you need that backing so someone can see that you are able to take money, use it wisely, and then pay it back. Right. Because that increases your buying power. As you borrow and pay back on time, and as you said you would do, your ability to obtain credit increases, the level of credit that you have also increases. So if someone says, I don't believe in credit cards, I believe in buying everything with cash. We've had this conversation before about buying things in cash. How does that hurt someone or help someone?
Well, to me, it depends on what your goal is. Mm-hmm. So if your goal is to live on cash, live on cash. That means the ability to obtain a big purchase is delayed. Because if you live on cash basis, until you have that cash, you cannot make the big purchase. Mm-hmm. If you want to make a big purchase, 90%, 98% of people need credit.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to get credit, you got to get a little credit to build that credit.
Right. I agree, because the majority of us do not have a influx of cash, on hand to be able to purchase big ticket items like a car or a house, things of that nature, even furniture. I mean, it doesn't even have to be as big as a house or as much as a car. It could be furniture just to furnish your home. Many of us do not just have an overflow of cash that we can just pull from to make these type of purchases. So therefore, credit is what we need to be able to get the things that we need and want, because some of the things, of course, are wants, but it allows us the ability to maintain a smaller payment plan moving forward to be able to have the things that you want. So with that being said, credit is very important. Personally, like I told you all before, I didn't really know about credit, growing up. That wasn't something that we were taught. That wasn't something that was being taught in school. I came from old school parents. Cash was king. You didn't have the cash, you just didn't buy it. And then here comes the time in my life, I'm getting ready to purchase my first home.
Yes.
And guess what? I don't have credit history.
Yes.
Well, one thing that I think people don't, well, as you were speaking, Jessica, one thing that came to my mind was student loans. That's credit.
Absolutely true.
It is.
And how many of us go to college and come out of college already in debt and in bad debt because we can't pay the student loan back.
Right.
And so, yes, it is credit, but we don't see it that way. We're thinking someone's giving me this money, yes, to go to school. I'm going to graduate, and I'm hoping that I'm going to graduate with income, but not necessarily. The last few years, that has not been the case.
Right.
And depending on what you're going to school for, what your education journey is, you, a doctor, a lawyer, you are in debt up to your eyeballs and beyond once you finish school. And so if you're not even making that money, you're already in a situation where your credit looks bad. But thankfully, that is being looked at and being not forgiven, but it's given more consideration now as opposed to what it used to be. Right? Exactly. So I think it's important that, yes, we understand, even when I'm using cash, it's good to have the cash because cash is what you need to be able to pay back your debt, correct?
Correct.
You have to have the income, but it's also getting a credit card. And even if you're using that credit card for, like I told my daughter, if you get a credit card, pay your Netflix bill, pay your little, everyday things that you kind of use, and pay that bill off each month. Now you all are familiar with American Express, right?
Ooh, zero balance every month.
Do you all remember back in the day, if you didn't pay your American Express bill, I don't care who you were and where you were, if you had not paid that American Express bill, the person on the other end of that phone, when that person called to say that this card did not work, what would they do? They would cut that card right in front of you.
Oh, yes, they would.
They would cut your card. I don't care whose name was on that card. I don't care where you were. It was the most, I think, humiliating, embarrassing thing that could happen to any person. And so now American Express stopped doing that, but that was a hard lesson, I think, for many people, right? To think that, okay, I bought this because American Express was more like, if you bought it all, we want it all back in 30 days. No excuses, no grace
period, loan.
Nothing.
So American Express is classified more so like a charge card.
They're all American Express is a credit card. It is a credit card
because they want their money.
They want that. Look, I told
all of it.
I was laughing with some friends this weekend about, you remember on the Cosby Show when Sandra said she was not going back to law school, and Claire Huxtable says, "Do you know how much money we spent? You owe us money." She said, I want my $79,682.22, and I want it now.
Down to the penny.
That is how American Express operates. They don't care.
All of their money.
If you spend it all at one time, they want it all back at one time.
Right. Right.
So,
But most credit card companies, you know, they would allow you to pay a
yes,
minimum.
which is
A
what's
minimum.
called revolving credit.
Right. We don't recommend paying
Right.
just the minimum balance, but
Right.
unlike American Express, most the other credit cards, they do allow for a minimum amount to be paid per
Yes.
month. But before we get to that, how does one obtain credit?
Good question. So a lot of nowadays, I think even when I was in college, because that was when I got my first credit card. I had an American Express card in college.
I think they stop high school graduates.
Yes, they do. The minute they are graduating, they start coming for them. Now, what is bizarre about that? And I think so. This is a really good moment to discuss. I have no money. I am a college student or going to college. Most college students have no money, and you don't have time. A lot of people don't have time to work. And even if you're working, you're not working to pay a credit card bill. You're working to eat.
Right. The bare
to buy books. Right. For the bare essentials, to get back and forth, gas in your car. So is it not interesting that a credit card company would come to an individual who has absolutely no income? They have no money, but yet they're saying we are willing to trust you with a credit card. So let's unpack that a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't. It sounds to me like you're being taken advantage of.
You're being baited.
You're being taken advantage of. Of course, you know, we all did it. We all fell for it. I did too. Got the cards, and I mean, again, not really knowing credit and the big picture, just swiping. As long as it said approve, I'm like, I'm good.
Right.
Not even thinking about the consequences that come along with that, and what would happen by not paying it back, especially not paying it back on time.
And people don't understand that I spent $100, but if I don't pay that $100 within a certain time period, that $100 turns into $105. Why? Because there's interest compounding every day on that money that I spent. That's the other thing we are not taught. And culturally, people are afraid of credit.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I'm sure when we were all children, back in the day, if you bought some furniture, what would happen if you didn't pay that bill?
They came and got it.
What you say?
They came and picked that furniture.
They came and picked that furniture up from your house. They'll come pick up your car, which is called repossession. And so anytime you have something now that you own, or you don't own it yet, you are literally borrowing it until you finish paying for it. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand. Credit is, again, someone's giving you the ability to buy something now and pay for it over time. So paying for it later, not late, paying for it later. And what they expect is that you pay it on time until you complete the obligation.
Isn't that part of living within our means? Because as we have been speaking, I keep thinking, you know, credit has been around since the beginning of time.
Absolutely.
You know, and it was more so, hey, we're going to go to the grocery store. We need some groceries.
Yes.
Get the groceries. We get paid on Friday. We go pay the store back for helping us.
Absolutely.
Right. But, and when you say pay, if we're going to use it, we need to use it within the parameters of where we live. As in, if you only make $10,
right, you can only spend 2.
Right.
Right. You can only spend 2.
You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct, because what it is when you're using that card, you're in your mind, you should be using that card with the intent to pay back
100% within that month.
Yes.
Right. With the
unless
intent.
It's a big
nilly-willy.
Right.
We're not just nilly-willy.
And if you make the big purchase, this is where people get caught too. Minimum payment, just because they say make the minimum payment, you will be paying, which is why I'm so happy now that credit card companies have started to do that. Like when you charge something, they show you, they don't just show you they show you, if you make this minimum payment, this is how many years or how long it's going to take you to pay this back, right?
And how much you would have paid
in interest
over time versus the initial payment.
Right.
The initial cost of the item.
Right. And what people don't understand, one thing my mom always said is that if it says the minimum, my mom will pay double the amount of what's owed. And sometimes it's good to look at the interest and pay the interest as well. It makes so much of a difference in what you're paying and how you're paying. It helps you pay down that debt much quicker. It also makes you look better as a candidate for additional credit because you're showing that you're responsible for this. So if you buy $1,000 worth, if you charge $1,000 and they tell you, you only need to pay us $10 a month. Oh, that sounds wonderful. But normally what people do is if I'm paying $10 over here, oh my God, I'm gonna take that other credit card and I'm gonna go buy something else for $2,000. And now this is where people get caught, right? Credit can ruin your life and it follows you for 7 years. Well, you know, bankruptcy will follow you for 7 years, 10 years, but credit will do the same. And it's a fluctuating thing. That's the thing. Your credit score fluctuates every day based on what you're spending and how you're spending. Right.
That brings me to utilization.
Yes. How much should you be utilizing?
How much of the credit on that credit card should I actually be using? So if I got a $5,000 credit card, should I use all $5,000?
Absolutely not. Unless you're going to pay it right back.
But they gave me $5,000.
They gave it to you, but that don't mean nothing. Again, you can use it however you like.
Right.
But there's a number. There's a magic number for where your credit utilization should be.
If I'm not mistaken, is that 30% number?
30%. So if you have a $5,000 credit card, $1,500 is all you should actually spend.
That's all you should use. That's the maximum that you should be using.
That's the max.
Or at least carrying over. Is that how it is looked at?
Yes. Or at least
carrying over from month to month.
Or if you're going to, let's say you really do have to use it for, you need to use the entire, right? So if you use the entire, what could you do to help your credit look better? What would be some things that you could do to make it look better when you utilize that whole $5,000?
Other than paying it off?
No. Right. Other than paying it off. No, I mean, you have to pay it, but I'm saying if you're not able to pay, so let's just say your transmission went out, you needed new tires, and you didn't have that money right then. And it cost you $5,000. You needed to put all of that on that credit card because it's the beginning of the month. Your mortgage is due, your rent's due, your child's tuition is due. You have the money for all those things, but you don't have $5,000 sitting around right now to be able to pay for this car repair. What could you do differently to help yourself look better if you're going to utilize the whole $5,000?
Obtain more credit?
No, absolutely not.
Because I'm like,
let me just get some more.
What if you took that? Okay, so if you had $5,000, if you charged $5,000, what if you said, okay, over the next 3 or 5 months, I'm going to make either a $1,000 payment toward that card, right? Or, I'm going to break it into 4s. However you could do it, you have to look at it from that perspective.
What's the quickest way to be able to pay it
off? And to get your utilization back to that 30% and under.
Right.
It looks so much better. It changes your credit score. That's why I say your credit score is fluid based on how you're spending and what you're spending on.
Right.
So, it'd be a good idea just to figure out how I can reduce this debt quickly after I've used it. Because what feels the best thing is to look at credit cards in your wallet and know that you can use them. It's no good having
Right.
credit cards in your
that you can't use. Exactly. Exactly. So that brings me to the different types of credit cards.
Mhm.
So like we have a secured credit card,
Yes.
and then we have something that's called an unsecured credit card.
Yes.
So from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, secure credit card means you put some of your own money up front
Yes.
for that credit card.
Correct.
And for most people, especially those who don't have credit history or at least a strong credit history, this is something that they can do to help build
Absolutely.
credit. And most of these companies and even banks, credit unions, they
Yes.
will allow you to get a secure credit card. And after they have kind of seen how you've utilized it over time, they
Mhm.
could bump you to an unsecured credit card
Correct.
later on down the line, depending on how well you did.
Correct.
But this is a route that those who don't have the best of credit or just in the beginning stages of building credit,
Right.
this is something that they can utilize
Correct.
to start that process.
One thing that I really want to be, lack of a better word, to drive home is credit is a temporary. When we speak of credit cards,
Mhm.
this is something that we need to minimize, use in emergencies, and stay within our means.
I will agree with you.
And maybe this is because, I'm a little old, so I'm older. I'm not the cash is king type person,
Mhm.
but I'm also like, I've been through the ups and downs, the 800 credit score down to the 500 credit score, back up to the 800 credit score kind of thing.
Mhm.
And what I find is, if I'm going to use the credit card, secure credit cards are great. But what I find that people don't understand is, if you have $1,000 secured credit card, which means you put $1,000 of your money up and they are going to loan you your money.
Right. Basically.
Right.
In order to get to the point where you get an unsecured part, you're going to use it. You want to use that $1,000. So you want to utilize it. You want to go and spend,
Mhm.
but you also, at the end of that month, you need that credit card back at $1,000.
Correct.
So even though it's your money, you still need to have $1,000 utilization of that credit
Right.
every month.
Correct.
Which is, to me, teaching that whatever you use a card for, pay it off.
Right.
Right.
And what I don't want people to think is, well, I'm making a payment. A payment is not paying off.
Right.
So
Paying off is bringing it to zero.
bringing it to zero. And
Right.
I know, stuff happens.
Right. Life happens.
And if we're to the point where you've utilized everything and you need that $5,000 credit line to fix something,
Mhm.
you have to do some hustle to get that back down to zero as soon as possible.
Absolutely. That's why I said, what
Most
would be your
definitely.
options to, instead of just paying the minimum payment,
Mhm.
how could you get that back? Because sometimes if it's an emergency, it's just like if you're going to borrow money, right?
Yes.
Borrowing money from someone does not work, because when you get your money, all your money is going back to the people you borrowed it from, i.e. credit. Right. So you have to be careful about how much money you're spending, borrowing, and then having to pay back. And again, life sometimes puts you in situations where you don't have another choice,
Right.
other than to do what you're doing right now.
Right.
So something we were talking about when we were talking about revolving credit cards and secured and unsecured. So how can we asked the question about how can you build credit? So people don't even realize, if you're a student and you have to pay your utility bills. If you live in an apartment, a housing apartment on campus, you will have bills to pay. You will have to pay your utilities because, your utilities, you may have to pay your water or whatever, or your cable bill.
Right.
That's building credit because you need to pay all those things on time each month. Because especially if you have a roommate, if your roommates are paying their portion and you're not paying your portion, the service still gonna get cut off. And that's not fair to the people that are your roommates.
That are paying, right.
Right. But you have to be responsible enough. And that is a great way to show, even paying your cell phone bill, right? Paying your cell phone bill every month. If you have, like I said, these subscriptions to Netflix, and those are all ways of showing that you are responsible to pay things and pay them on time. And it's a good way to learn that, because there are small amounts of money, not vast amounts of money, where you are having to, worry about, oh, I don't have the money to pay this back.
Right.
So when she spoke of secured and unsecured,
Uh-huh.
is there a difference between store credit card and major credit card?
Well, I wouldn't say that there is. Maybe the interest rate might be higher on store credit cards.
I look at store cards as more of a charge card versus a credit card, because most of the store cards you can only use at that store.
Yeah, true.
Versus the credit card,
I can do it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Right.
I'm not limited to just Macy's.
So I think that being said, so if you have credit cards, do you need store credit cards?
That was my point.
Okay, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
I look at it, I'm now in a point in my life where I look at credit a little differently now. I look at credit and I'm looking at it from the perspective of how does it benefit me, right? So even though I may have a major credit card, I may actually have a store charge card because of the different benefits that may be allotted to me.
That's a good point.
Because of that card.
That's a good point.
Therefore, I still use it sparingly, like how I would use my credit card, because if it's an item that I'm going to buy anyway, but if I use my card, I'm getting an additional discount.
Very true.
I'm going to use my card. I'm going to get that additional discount and then I'm going to pay it right back off because I was buying the item anyway.
Very true.
So I look at how it benefits me. If it's not really beneficial to me, I don't need it. And I know you ladies have seen, you go into the store and that's the first question they ask you at the register.
Do you want a store credit card?
Right.
To apply for a store card. I mean, but if this is not, first of all, if this is not a store you frequent,
right?
You don't let people run your credit. It's not even.
Oh, can we put a pin right there?
Right there.
People running your credit.
It negatively
do not understand that is a negative impact towards your credit score.
Right.
I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
I had a buyer. Inquiries.
Absolutely. I had a buyer who had worked, was struggling, when they were first looking to buy, their credit score was not good. And so took a year to take time, especially during COVID, to get credit score up to like 780. Reached out to me and said, we are ready to go. I'm set. Let's hit it. I was like, oh my God, that's so good, right? Let's go. I called the lender and said, hey, can you please, get, run an app for them, get them pre-qualified. Lender says, okay, I can't qualify them. So what do you mean? Like their credit score is like below like 513 or something.
Wait a minute.
What? That can't be. He just said so my client had gone to CarMax over the weekend. And I don't even think he bought the car, but he was looking at cars. That was the reason why he was having a problem with the credit before. CarMax ran his credit 13 times.
Every limit.
Because like a company like CarMax, it's just something people also don't understand. When CarMax runs your credit, CarMax sends that out to all of the lenders that they work with, as they are saying, to find you the best deal, the best interest rate, or the best company that's going to be willing to loan you money. Right?
Mhm.
So you have to ask the question, when you do that, where are you sending these inquiries, and how many times are you going to run my credit? Right? And there's no such thing as a soft hit. Only time is a soft hit is when you are buying a home and the lender is looking, and then they,
Do your
to be able to
pre-qual.
give you get you pre-qualified, right? And that's different because creditors look at that differently when it's a major purchase. But I always tell people, you buy a house, you can get a car. You buy a car, you're not getting a house. It's just
And that's true. I mean, that happens every day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. We laugh about, being at a closing, you're at the closing waiting for your client to show up, and your client shows up in a new car. You're like, oh my God, please tell me you borrowed that from someone, or you just decided to rent that for the day or something. But please tell me you didn't buy that car, because guess what? Pretty much, you're not buying a house today.
I've had it happen 3 days before closing.
Oh, see.
My client calls me in tears. Had got in a car wreck, needed a new car, just turned 30.
You just couldn't wait.
And had to have the Camaro.
You just couldn't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, if you tell me 3 days before closing, literally, you could have waited 3 days.
Which is why, as realtors, we do tell our clients, once you go under contract, please understand, hear us loud and clear. You buy nothing. I don't care if the furniture that you have been waiting for years has gone on sale. You cannot buy it. You can buy it once you sign those papers, and the attorney says your loan has been funded, because even at that closing moment, depending on what time your closing happened,
things could change.
And you go and buy something major, people don't understand.
And the thing about that is, with this client, she was like, but my payment, like, I wrecked my car.
We understood.
My payment's the same.
We understand.
Your payment might be the same.
Right. But it changes your debt to ratio.
It changed your debt to ratio.
Yes.
Because you only owed 10,000 on your car.
Now you owe
20,000. Oh,
right.
It was literally a $60,000 car.
Iris, let your pearls.
I know.
I
should have warned them today, because oh my God.
It's so true though.
It's very true.
It happens more often than we would like to admit.
Yes.
As much times as we as realtors have put out that disclaimer.
Yes.
It still happens. It happens all of the time. Some people have been able to kind of skate under the rug and dismiss it by the skin of their teeth. I had a client that did that.
Yes.
She literally pulled up in a truck and I saw paper tags and I immediately went ballistic. I'm like, she was like, I just got it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you knew closing was today.
Yes.
You couldn't have waited 24 hours for me. 24 hours.
People don't understand.
It didn't affect her.
Yes.
Because it didn't show. It didn't pop up.
Right.
She was able to close. Everything was fine. She got the keys. Lord, thank you. Right. But that's not the story for everybody.
No. Because what people don't understand is, like we said, if you close on your house, we just had the closings that I had a month ago. The young lady at the table said, we have our car waiting. We're going to go and sign now. And we told them no.
Wait.
First of all, it was late in the evening.
Right.
That we were closing.
Therefore, we need to wait until tomorrow.
Absolutely. Wait until tomorrow when everything has been
close the
funded,
business tomorrow. Let's be clear.
Absolutely.
Business tomorrow.
Then you go and sign. They'll hold that car for you. They will understand.
They know you.
But don't go, because what you're doing is putting yourself in such a situation. And even the idea of, okay, so you're under contract, your closing is coming up, and someone says, I'm going to give you $10,000 as a gift. That's someone's gifting you this money. and you say, oh, thanks, mom and dad, we so do appreciate that. No, because mom and dad now has to write a letter. Mom and dad has to, first of all, write a letter to say and prove where that money came from.
Now
And
we
I
got
know
to
you
get
guys are
mom and
probably
dad's
saying that
bank
sounds
account statement
crazy.
to show
Mom
that
and
they
dad
had the
has to,
money.
oh
to
my God.
give you. It's a whole process.
It's a gift, and then you will never be expected to pay it back, because what you cannot do, if your parents or you miss a payment or you miss payments, and then you turn around and tell your lender, well, that $10,000, I had to pay it back. Oh, no. It's documented right here.
And
that
it
this
was a gift and not a loan.
See, there's so many things involved in purchasing a home that people don't, you don't even think about.
Yeah.
Well,
You really don't.
credit.
Credit is serious.
I had a lady, did not affect my closing, but it was mind-blowing how she got her cable cut on, her ADT and cable. She was relocating to Georgia. This is what credit does. You know, she was moving in and she called and had all of her services set up before closing.
And they ran her credit.
And they ran her credit, and she didn't understand why she had to write an explanation. It was just an explanation,
but it could have been different.
It could have been different.
Right.
And the thing is, when we started talking about credit, your cable company, your security, your phone, yes, all of these are credit accounts.
Absolutely.
And they all matter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Even down to gas, Stephanie. Mm-hmm. The gas company
runs your credit.
Runs your credit.
To determine whether or not you got to pay a deposit.
Absolutely. And it determines how much of a deposit you're going to have to pay.
So all of that affects it. So you got to think, you got these new home buyers, getting ready to move into their new home. And they're thinking, oh, we have to set all of this stuff up. Again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I would prefer for you to get your keys and have signed on a dotted line and then call these people to set up the necessary utilities, because them running your credit
could make a difference.
Could affect what we have going on. I would hate for the gas company to affect you being able to purchase this house.
Absolutely. Or the cable company.
Right.
Now you don't even have a house to put cable in.
Absolutely. You sure don't. And you've paid the deposit and they're not giving it back.
And you're not getting it back.
Yes.
So when we say this,
that's very true.
We're not saying it just to be saying it. Like we have seen it happen over and over and over. And because it didn't happen for your cousin does not mean it won't happen to you. So just listen when we say that.
Yes.
Another thing that I find, and it doesn't happen all the time with credit, should I co-sign on a loan for somebody?
Absolutely not.
I've heard that, Steph. It's like you have done the work. You've gotten your credit where you need to have it. Now you're in the process of buying a house and somebody calls and say, oh, I need your help.
Yes. Don't do it.
I need your help. Can you help me get this car? I need a cosigner.
Right. Or can you loan me $5,000 that you move now out of your account, which changes?
That we got all the magnifying glasses on, like all of every dime that's being spent. We trying to see what's happening.
The day of, they could run your credit. 2 days of, they're going to run your credit. The day. So this is the thing.
Never know.
This is why we say those. You just keep until you. It's like crossing the finish line. You don't get the reward until you actually cross the finish line. The reward could be snatched from you or stolen from you if you do something that is out of sorts before you cross the finish line.
The day of.
And it's very heartbreaking for a buyer to have done all that work, gone through all of those stressful moments and everything, and have your dream deferred because of a minor thing. It seemed like a minor thing to you, but it's not a minor thing to the lenders or to those who are giving you credit.
Right.
It's very serious.
It is. And I feel like these are the topics, that people need to have a
Here.
full understanding of before they even
Absolutely.
start this process.
Yes.
Because this can be, you know, a bitter pill to swallow for someone who wasn't prepared. Well, I didn't think that that would have really affected it, or I didn't think that that was that big of a deal. And
It's a
now,
big deal.
as a result, you know, right. And now, as a result, everything that you work so hard for is not going to be attainable right now. Now you have to wait,
Yep.
whatever length of time, for the effects of that to kind of fall off,
Yes.
before we can be back in the position again. So therefore, doing your due diligence and learning the process before you get started will benefit you so much in the long run.
Yes.
Because nothing will be a surprise, or you won't be blindsided. Well, I didn't know I couldn't get my gas in my name.
Right. And you know, one thing I wanted to share, and it'll be the last thing I'm going to share, was, you know, we were talking about student loans, and I had a client, and my heart broke for this client. She was a minister, and she was taking care of her 2 grandchildren, and was really so desperately wanting to purchase a home so that her grandchildren would be able to come and be with her. And because one literally lived with her from the time she was born, and the other one, it was a little bit of a custody battle going on. Right. So she wanted to have the opportunity to be able to spend time with the other child. Nonetheless, she had gone back to school gone to theology school. So she had her own student loan. Her 2 adult children also had student loans.
In her name?
What? Co-signer. Someone convinced her that it would be better for her to put all of the loans in her name, to take on all of the loans. My heart broke because she was pre-qualified. And then when that was discovered, she had $500,000 worth of student debt.
I believe it.
Whoever did that to her,
that just messed up her debt to income ratio.
And she was up $500,000 student loan debt. When are you gonna buy a house? Your grandchildren will buy a house before you, unless somebody comes along and says, we're gonna help you pay this. So you have to be careful about doing even consolidation of debt. Be careful about, you know, when you're trying to work on your credit, or credit repair companies, or you just got to make sure that people are doing the right thing when they say they're going to help you clean up your credit and help you with your debt, because sometimes that could be detrimental.
A lot of people don't have the funds to go obtain an education. I believe student loans is one of the biggest issues when it comes to actually qualifying.
Yes.
So I told my niece and my nephews, and, you know, now my kids, student loans, if you want an education, you need them.
Right.
Because I don't have that money in the bank behind me.
Right.
However, please don't go into forbearance if you don't have to.
Absolutely not.
Please don't defer the loans if you don't have to.
Absolutely.
Pay them double, and get a job.
So you can
in the field, complete the degree.
Yes.
And do it. I mean, that's a hard thing for America right now, student loan debt. Absolutely. I know they're looking at it, but we're all burdened with it now.
We are.
And until it's wiped off, cleared out, paid in full, you know, we just got to stay on top of it. And because student loan debt, of course, you know, it is credit.
It is credit,
you know, but it affects so many things.
Right.
You know, purchasing a car, purchasing a house, you know, all of that stuff it affects, because it's still debt to income. It's still considered a debt, you know. So we have to take that into consideration. But I at the end of the day, you know, what we want our viewers and listeners to take away today is that credit is a tool.
An absolute tool.
It's a tool, and you determine how this tool can help you. But your actions can also determine how this tool can hurt you.
Yes.
So, you know what you're getting yourself into, and be responsible when using it.
Absolutely. It is
Be
something
smart
you will
about it.
have your entire life. And so, and trust me, it could be bad, but it can be good again.
Exactly.
But just remember that you have to always be responsible with your credit.
Exactly.
It's almost, it's like it's your face of money.
Mhm.
Your
Right.
credit is your face of money, because people don't know you personally.
It's
So they just,
it's your
they just know-
character. It's your
they know,
character of
right,
money.
it's your money character, and
I love
it's
it.
how people see you. And so if they, you know, when you apply for something and they go, nope, denied, you know,
She's
like,
not
why she not ready?
right. Yeah.
So,
and that's not what you want. That's
yeah,
not
you
what
have to be very mindful. Credit is king, cash is king, but credit is, you know, credit would be queen, I guess. You know, you got to look at it
They
that
go
way.
hand in hand.
They go together. And
They
so
go hand in
be
hand.
mindful of that.
Yeah. Responsibility is the word of the day.
Absolutely.
Responsibility.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. I hope that we all, as I said, shared some information that gave you some nuggets of wisdom to be able to share with yourself, share with others, right? And if there's anything that we said today that you don't understand, you can feel free to reach out to us, right? Or you can go and do your own homework. And I suggest that you actually do. Go look up what credit means, right? What sort of power it is, right? What does your credit score mean? All those things, because it will help you not be afraid of it. If you're an individual who keeps saying, I don't need credit, you do. You're always going to need credit. You need credit. It's what makes the world go round. It really does. So we thank you all so much for joining us today. And we hope that you have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of the week. And we thank you all. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Stephanie.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.